Hello, everyone. Hi, thank you so much for joining yet another webcast with the Customer Success Network. So happy to see loads of familiar faces, but similarly lots of new ones. So very excited for this one in particular. Today we have invited Laura Bibby from Beamery, who will show us how to improve customer engagement with customer marketing. As ever, super excited to welcome our guest, who's not only a fantastic professional in the area of customer success, but also a dear friend of mine. So Laura, thank you so much for joining us. A few words on our speaker. She's a customer success and marketing professional with over 7 years of experience in the technology industry. Current customer marketing manager at Beamery, Laura has implemented a number of key customer engagement programs throughout her career, which have driven outcomes for customers and CSMs alike. When our customers go live, we're ever so excited to get them on the platform and ensure that both stakeholders and users become accustomed to our products and services within the first few weeks of go live. During the course of our partnership, we work tirelessly to ensure not only that they achieve strategic outcomes, but also they choose to continue on their journey with us. But customer engagement does not only depend on your product and how you deliver enablement. It also depends on how your users and senior stakeholders perceive your product and company. And this perception comes directly from their relationship with us, their customer success team. Creating this strong bond and driving engagement from the very start, though, can be hard, as we often try to change the whole way organizations are functioning. Enter customer success marketing and Laura Bibby, who will tell us today how we can leverage the power of this exciting new field to drive engagement from day one. As you know, we try to make this webcast as interactive as possible. So as you can see on the screen, please post your questions in the Q&A box just underneath your screen. This is how you'll be able to interact with others. We're going to be stopping twice in the middle and then towards the end of the webcast, where we're going to be able to answer your questions and engage a little bit more. We're going to be streaming live in our workplace community, so you can see the webcast in future and also continue the discussion there. Without further ado, I'm handing over. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Really appreciate it. So just checking that you can hear me okay? Perfect. So firstly, thanks everybody for tuning in to listen to me today. The relationship between customer success and marketing is one that I'm incredibly passionate about. So I'm really looking forward to diving into some thoughts, strategies, and tactics that might support what you're doing in your day-to-day role. By way of introduction, Marika's already done it very nicely already, but as she said, I'm currently customer marketing manager at HR tech company Beamery. In short, our platform allows customers to attract, engage, and retain candidates, and our mission is to help the world's best companies acquire their greatest assets, their people. But it's worth calling out that my professional experience in its entirety sits across customer success and marketing. Having directed customer success for UK and US territories in a past role, I know what it's like to be on both sides of the fence. And that has helped hugely in developing a certain type of approach to customer marketing here at Beamery. So why are we talking about customer success and marketing today? Well, according to OpenView, 61% of companies have indicated that aligning customer success and marketing is a main priority for them. Successful businesses don't operate on a set and forget approach for their customers. Your customers are your validation to the market that your product is top notch. Being in the customer success network, I know that you know this already, and I know that you're heavily invested in delivering exceptional customer success anyway. But the data packs a bunch. If you're trying to get your senior stakeholders to prioritize customer experience and customer marketing, this one will probably help. Companies that prioritize their customer experience generate 60% more revenue than their competitors, which is obviously huge. And it's clear that through CS and marketing, you can create a truly virtuous and profitable cycle. Data suggests that for every 1 satisfied customers, they tell 9 people how happy they are. But for every 1 dissatisfied customer, they'll tell 22 people about their bad experience. So through CS and marketing alignment, you've got the power to drive customer engagement and advocacy in support of new business, growth, and customer retention. You can delight customers and build long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. And that's why I love what I do, because everybody can win. So what is customer engagement? To kick this off, I want to hammer down one key point. Despite talking to the monetary benefits on the previous slides, customer engagement first and foremost is focused on value creation, not revenue extraction. The foundations of your customer engagement tactics have to stay true to this. This visual from Bain & Company illustrates a different strata of value in B2B incredibly well. So delivery of value can come in many forms, whether it's inspirational value, your purpose, hope, and social responsibility, individual value, someone's network extension, reputational assurance, ease of doing business value, time savings, reduced costs, functional value, improved top line and scalability, or the table stakes, so pricing, compliance, ethical standards, for example. But when considering customer engagement, these are your golden eggs of opportunity beyond the traditional sell. It's the encouragement to interact and share in the experience you create for them as a business and as a professional. And most importantly, on a personal level. And it's that personal level that I want to dive a little bit deeper into. We're all in the B2B space. It's full of buzzwords, tons of noise. The next big marketing tactic will be just one LinkedIn post away, I'm sure. But I'm passionate about the fact that increasingly human connection should be prioritized above all forms of marketing, particularly when it comes to the customer, because you can break your prospects and customers down into 100 different user personas to target, but the one thing that they all have in common is humanity. And these are some of the brands that do that incredibly well. Look to these for inspiration, and you can apply a bit more creativity to what you're doing, whether it's in their swag that they give, their tone of voice, the content that they produce, some of the events that they host. I personally have been known to bombard my team's Slack channel with ideas that are just inspired by these guys. So just a little group of brands that I think are definitely worth a little look if you're interested. So that then leads us to question, how do we apply this at Bibby? Well, our customers are at the heart of our company mission, as I mentioned earlier. We're helping businesses to acquire their greatest assets, their people. So that mission in its very nature calls to the people aspect of business. People want to feel real connections with the brands that they do business with, and they want to be helped, not sold to. And people buy from people, not from businesses. Often in B2B, people are betting their entire careers or reputation on actually purchasing from you. So it's actually an incredibly personal relationship that you're entering. And yes, all customers say that they're customer obsessed and customer first, but what truly allows you to demonstrate that and add value for your customers is one thing, and that's empathy. Listening, understanding, empathizing with your customers on a personal and a professional level. That's your gateway to knowing that what they will value from you and how you can keep them engaged as well. Keep that at the heart of your customer marketing, and you'll outshine your competition and derive long-term engagement and success. So why is engagement so important early on in the customer lifecycle? Sadly, I've personally come across too many instances where a business believes customer engagement starts at purchase. You all know as well as I do that customer engagement begins at the very first touch point that an individual has with your brand, whether an ad on LinkedIn, through word of mouth, or an industry event, from awareness all the way through to evaluation, purchase, loyalty, and advocacy. That is a true customer journey, meaning one thing, essentially everybody in your org owns the customer experience. That won't be a new sort of phrase to you guys, especially. So product, sales, legal, marketing, every single touch point that a customer has with your business contributes to their feeling about your company, their perception of you as a business. Scary, I know, but more than anything, an opportunity to ignite positive emotion, to add value, and to engage them even further, and essentially to help them. And when it comes to driving that engagement so early on in the process, I want to bring in a little bit of psychology here because it's something that does interest me. There's something many of you may have heard already, which is the rule of habit forming. and it's said to take 21 days to form a habit and 90 days to form a lifestyle. This means that the first 3 months of a customer journey is absolutely critical. And in B2B, we're often relying on adoption of brand new technologies and innovative ways of working that completely disrupt what they're currently doing. This is all part of change management and is what I'd argue a lifestyle change for our customers. So really, we need to be focusing on that 90-day number. And it's even scarier to think that it only takes 3 days to break a habit, but that might deserve a separate webinar in its own right, to be honest. I'm going to jump into some tactics that can help you to ensure that those first 21 to 90 days deliver a delightful and engagement experience for your customers that can essentially add value to you, to your role, and to your business. Before I do, I just wanted to open up the floor to any kind of questions that you guys have.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Laura, for that great introduction. I'm sure that that's sparked a few questions already. So go ahead and ask. We have a question from Tony here. He's saying, hello, in my company, we're going to implement a customer success marketing position within the customer success team, not within the marketing team, because we have seen that other companies went with this approach too. Like, what is your stance, and do you have experience with this kind of role?
My stance on that, I think it's a great question, first of all. I think provided you're looking for somebody who is able to seamlessly work cross-functionally, that's what's going to be key. Whether it sits within marketing or within customer success, as long as you've got somebody who will work really well with both teams, then I think that both sides could work, to be honest. With having someone within the customer success team, it allows you to really close the loop and essentially work incredibly closely with your sort of VP of customer success to make sure that everything that you're doing in your customer marketing role or function is feeding straight back into that customer account, whether it's through increasing sort of retention, improving upsell opportunities, just sort of driving referrals for sales, for example. I think by having it within the customer success function, you've got a really seamless sort of end-to-end life cycle for that customer. That doesn't necessarily stop you from doing that if they're in the marketing function as well. I think Marika can probably speak to the fact that I work incredibly closely with the customer success team. I've got my finger on the pulse of most of what they're doing, but purely from a sort of communication standpoint, we've been able to communicate very well together and collaborate on the sort of projects that we have going.
Thank you for that. And we have a thanks from our listener here as well. And I guess from my perspective, when I was listening to you, I was thinking along the same lines. The majority of marketing professionals that enter a marketing team would have a focus on sales. Have you noticed a particular shift? Because we know that a lot of senior stakeholders in companies are now shifting their focus from acquiring new sales more towards kind of retaining the sales that we already have. Do you think that we're seeing a similar shift in marketing, and how strong do you think that shift is?
Sorry, so just to clarify the question, seeing a shift in marketing focusing on retaining the customer? Yeah, I think it's a critical part of any business that, as I sort of showed with the numbers and the stats earlier, having a program of some sort that drives retention amongst your current customer base, not just retention, but growth and engagement, I think is critical, because the successful businesses don't operate on set and forget. You can't launch a sort of innovative tech product with a customer and expect them just to sort of fly with it. It's like giving somebody a car and they don't know how to drive it. So I do think that more so businesses are going to focus their marketing efforts on retaining current customers, because there's a visual that I'll show you later on actually. You create a loyalty loop essentially. So as soon as somebody sort of buys your product, or they're sort of looking to purchase, then they buy, then they adopt, then they love it, then they become loyal, then they advocate, and then it becomes full cycle within its own unit. That customer will continue to buy more from you, love it, advocate. That's in itself a sort of a loyalty loop, but they will also talk about your product to their friends or to their network in the industry. They will also, through word of mouth or events that they speak at, tell everybody how great your product is for you. And that will start a new cycle with a new potential customer. So I think you can have, it's almost like you've got cogs working in a machine. Each cog is a customer, but that customer can actually power the sales process for you. And we've seen sort of advocacy output and referrals that have significantly contributed to new customers coming on board and closing sort of sales as well. So I think there's definitely going to be a shift where more businesses are looking for somebody to do a role such as customer marketing. And as you know, Marika, customer marketing was a new role at Beamery. You know, I came on and sort of introduced the function to the business, and I think it just shows that, especially with innovative companies, more and more are looking to have somebody to own that. So yeah, I think there's only going to be even more of a shift towards it. It's quite like customer success, actually. Everybody, you know, over the past 10 years, there's been this huge upsurge in customer success. And, you know, a differentiation between it previously being account management, and it's definitely not that. People know that customer success needed it, or knew customer success needed its own unit and deserved that as well. So I think we're going to see the same shift with customer marketing.
That's amazing. And I think you're gonna see that all of our listeners today would agree with you, because we've all seen a surge in our profession in the amount of hiring that people are doing. We have time for one more question, so thanks to Anil for posting it. The question is, how do you best work with sales, customer success management, and professional services to create materials or collateral, and where do you find the most pushback?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I think my first rule for collaboration, and when I sort of joined the business as well, was getting feedback. So I ran a survey, but also had sort of one-to-one interviews with key stakeholders within the different teams to say, what do you need? What are you missing right now? How do you feel like I can support you, or customer marketing could support you in what you're doing, especially as a new role? A lot of people actually just don't really know what customer marketing can do to support them. So I think there's definitely, before you introduce it to the business, a discovery piece that needs to be done to understand what collateral is needed, what kind of programs and activities are needed. And the collaboration across teams for customer marketing is critical, because for sales, it could be that, you know, you are delivering on success stories or case studies that actually they're getting a lot of questions about, or they're looking for validation from current customers on. So it's understanding where the needs are there. But for, you know, product and engineering teams, it's actually, you can develop, and later on I'll go into it, you can develop voice of the customer programs where you are automating feedback, and the product and engineering teams are able to actually get that information from the customer about how the platform is being used, satisfaction levels, NPS scores. So to be able to feed that back into the business is incredibly valuable. I think customer success as well, obviously there is that, is definitely the sort of more obvious alignment, but it's supporting with what extra can you give your customers? And looking at sort of the visuals and the stuff that I shared earlier, in that customer journey, and I will go into this in a bit more depth in a bit, in that customer journey, where are the points at which you could actually be going above and beyond and drip feeding little bits of delight that will just make the customer feel a positive sentiment towards your brand, which makes everything so much easier. If you know that you've got a good relationship, you've delivered them value throughout that customer journey that actually goes above and beyond, here's the product that you purchased, when it comes to any issues that are raised or asking them whether they'd like to do a success story, it's much easier to make those asks if you've got a happy customer. So obviously working very, very closely with them. I think the most pushback, just to address the second part of your question, that is a good one. I think the pushback comes from not understanding what customer marketing could do for them. And I think that there is the potential to get more pushback, potentially from sales, because it is customer marketing, it's customer focused, or from the outside it's customer focused. So I think there potentially could always be the question of, okay, well, how can this help bring me more leads in the top of the funnel? And that's quite easily answered with, here's a wonderful case study telling your leads how fantastic the product is. So yeah, hopefully that addressed your question.
Thanks, Laura. I can feel that we're starting to go into the second part of your presentation with the how-to and some exciting more content. There's more questions which we are going to be addressing towards the end of the second part of the presentation. So bear with us. Laura, back over to you.
Amazing, thank you. So, yeah, really appreciate those questions coming through, and definitely do keep asking them, even if something sort of comes to your mind throughout the next half of the presentation. We may have, I think, yeah, have some time to answer them at the end, or obviously you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or something after the webinar as well. So in the second half of the presentation, I'm going to give you 5 steps to hopefully help you get kick-started with some customer marketing. These have all been what I would say a really critical part of what we're doing here at Beamery, and will tie quite nicely into some of the questions that were asked as well. More than anything, I want everybody to just keep in mind that these are focused on doing customer marketing with empathy and with the knowledge that we're simply engaging and providing value to humans. Just every customer marketing program that you have has got to have that human element at the center of it. So that's something that I really want us to kind of focus on throughout. So first up, it's a pretty simple exercise that I'm sure most of you already have in play. It's absolutely critical to have a full view of your entire customer journey. As I said earlier, this does start at their very first interaction with your brand. But if we focus on what you as CS can wholly control, think about the handover from sales to yourselves, or the implementation or delivery team as the beginning, I'd say. You can easily split that subsequent journey into initiation with your product, so when they receive it, so to speak, engagement and adoption with your product, so when they use it, and loyalty and brand advocacy, sorry. So when they have a positive experience with it, they love it, and they become your promoters. And what I would suggest doing, if this works for your business, is splitting that between the customer journey for your senior stakeholders, so the economic buyer, and your end users, those experiencing your product day to day. Their experience will obviously be very different, so any tactics that you decide to deliver should be tailored to suit. So by the end of this exercise, you should have 2 core customer journeys. A customer journey that you know your senior stakeholder would go through, and a customer journey that you know your end user would go through. I think the second point, and something that should be done alongside that previous tactic, is to gain a deep understanding of exactly who your customers are. So not just as an account, again, always keep the fact that they're human in mind, but become acquainted with them on a personal level. Learn what each customer likes on a business and a personal level. How do they best communicate? What sensitivities do they have? What keeps them up at night? What are their passions? What's important to them? What sparks joy in them? Potentially just their birthday. Any information that you can gather about that customer, and keep it what I would essentially say is a black book of information about your customer. Gather that information because it's going to help you tailor your customer marketing program later on. In my previous role as CS, I had what was essentially a black book of this information. And now that my focus is on customer marketing, I know how valuable personalized experiences are. And whether this feeds into a gifting program that you decide to run and you know that they love golf, and you can do a sort of gift that's tied in with that, or it enables you to provide collateral that will ease some of their main concerns. If they're particularly nervous about communicating with the IT team about it, hand them a pack over to just ease all of those nerves, and make sure that you're giving them something to help them personally feel much more comfortable. Tailor their experience in a customer community potentially, or simply reach out to them with specific opportunities and content from time to time. One of the most simplest and cost-effective forms, I would say, of customer marketing is a simple saw this and thought of you email that takes probably about 2 to 3 minutes. It might be a link to an article that aligns with one of their interests that you know, an upcoming event that they think that you should attend, that you think they should attend, or an award that you think that they'd rock at. I think it's very easy to sort of know that information and give them relevant stuff just on the fly. And I get that that might be quite tough to scale, but at the very least, set up a Google alert for their business. And if any news comes through that's relevant to your relationship with them, ping it over to them, or craft a monthly newsletter for your customers that doesn't just focus on your product and sort of just highlight new features that have launched, but it actually includes content that's relevant to those customers, events that you know that they'd be interested in, links to any learning courses that your business runs. It's the thought that counts with this tactic, and that's what's going to resonate on a more personal level, and help you to build those relationships with your customers. And why is that? Because it actually shows that you care. And this sort of combines with the previous slide as well, but I think it deserves its own call out, because building relationships, delivering a human experience and value to your customers requires a solid program to demonstrate that you're actually listening to them and their needs. Run experience and relationship-based surveys, gather their feedback and find out how satisfied they are via a regular NPS check-in. There are plenty of great platforms to help you do this, and it has huge benefits cross-functionally. One of the things that I mentioned earlier with working with product and engineering is that you can gauge how customers are sort of using the platform. They can gauge a better understanding of the user experience, happiness levels, identify issues early potentially, and you can tailor your enablement content accordingly to improve learning and the onboarding experience as well. So understanding your customers and listening to their needs is absolutely critical. You likely won't act on every single piece of feedback. Again, if we're looking at this as a scalable tactic, you can segment that feedback and prioritize it to ensure that you've got appropriate measures in place to actually engage and retain customers. And it might be that a large group of customers are looking for a specific feature enhancement, or a large group of customers don't use X feature or don't find it useful. This is intel that you can utilize across the business and essentially use it to continue to grow. And Steve Jobs said something about this that I think really resonates with me, and it kind of touches on a few points that I mentioned earlier. It's get closer to your customers than ever, so close that you can tell them what they need before they realize it themselves. And I think you'll know in customer success, if you can identify things early on enough, it gives you enough time to potentially intercept. If there are early flags that potentially a customer isn't happy, you're able to see those and address that proactively with your customer. well in advance of them flagging that it's an issue much further down the line when potentially that's too late. So yeah, the quote from Steve Jobs is pretty delightful, but more importantly, it just allows you to plan and have foresight into what type of tactics might be needed within that customer journey with your business. So once you've got the above few steps in play, you can now begin to add true value to their experience. If we take a look at that customer journey that you mapped out by persona that I suggested earlier on, identify who it is that you can engage at those various different touch points and know what they'll need before they have to ask you for it, and create it. So every interaction from signature through to implementation, onboarding, training, QBRs and proactive touch points is a golden opportunity for you to engage them further by adding value to their experience. And whether that's through sending them swag for hitting specific milestones, you know, upon signature, send them a nice bit of swag that's branded. If they're doing their training, send each team member some branded stickers, get them to pop it on their laptop so that they forever see your brand and have positive associations to it. Whether you invite them to events that you're hosting at certain points of their customer journey, connect them with another customer to talk about your product and share best practices, invite them to a VIP advocacy program or customer community, or some sort of cohort that, you know, shows that they are special to you on a professional and personal level. You value their innovation and you value them being a customer. Something that we've kicked off here at Beamery is providing our stakeholders with launch packs on top of our standard training and onboarding. And these launch packs weren't necessarily asked for. It was that we identified that as a key early stage touch point that we have with our customer that we can do a bit more on. We can give them a series of posters to show, to put up around their office when they're just about to launch, to get people to get the end users to buy into the vision and to drive adoption, to highlight why this tech is being implemented, to highlight if you've got a senior stakeholder or an executive stakeholder, highlight a quote from them that shares that vision, and you're connecting on a more personal level. Something that I always say to include in these posters is if you're launching with a test cohort of users, they are your most powerful asset. Gather feedback from them whilst they're launching, get quotes from them and utilize that in launch materials, because it's all well and good you telling people how great your product is, but nothing works more powerful than hearing it from their peers. That kind of internal influencer marketing and validation is absolutely golden. So yeah, with this launch pack that we've created at Beamery, there is that series of posters. We have sort of easy to digest one pages that your stakeholder can circulate internally. They can send it out to their executive team. They can communicate it to the broader function that they're implementing this technology in. And we've even created bingo cards, essentially to sort of gamify the experience, to make it a bit more fun for end users. And this is something that with our customers and in implementation, we hand over to them and say to them, here's your launch pack. We can collaborate with you to customize these or do what you want with them. But it's something extra that owes to engagement and a positive onboarding experience with you personally as a CS manager, but also with your company as a brand. This positions that senior stakeholder in turn as the internal expert at the customer. So they are your voice within their business. So if you can give them everything that they need to best be your voice and to market internally, then it's only going to set you apart from the competition. And it's really going that extra mile to help them. You know, it's a one-time effort to templatize these types of collateral that you can continue to use for every customer. So I think one of the questions, or the last point that I want to look at, is why we do all of this. How can we validate the effort spent in marketing to our customers? And it's simple, because building this relationship and adding that value personally and professionally, empathizing, treating them like humans, it delivers long-term engagement, the stuff that actually sticks, not the short-term set and forget habits that they'll stop in a day or 3 days. We are trying to get them to form those habits over 21, 90 days, you know, half a year, 1 year renewal mark, and beyond. Make every interaction with customers as delightful as it can be. Bring them joy and they'll be loyal. They'll buy more from you. They'll talk positively about you in market, and they'll advocate for you through case studies, referrals, blog posts, webinars, and events. So something that we are doing at Beamery is a blog post series called Talking Talent With, where we engage our stakeholders and end users to collaborate on an interview style piece that explores their personal and professional journey. Essentially what got them where they are today, and really celebrates the innovation that they're driving in the current role. Now, this isn't making them talk about Beamery. It's not, you know, putting them in a position where they have to mention Beamery, but oftentimes their innovation is through the use of our platform. And so they mention it, which is always great, but it's not necessary. Otherwise, what we're doing to that stakeholder or to that individual is showing them how much we value them as an individual and how much we care. We're elevating them and we're giving them a stage to build their personal and their professional profile. And again, it's easy to execute. You know, it's a matter of reaching out to people, seeing if they're interested, no pressure if not. If they are, you know, it's a 20-minute, half an hour interview that we can then sort of bulk out with them, collaborate with them on, and it's something that they can share across their network as well. And it's had an incredibly positive feedback or positive response so far. The feedback's been great and prospects are picking up on it. And so I've just popped a few examples there on the slide. We also do things like cupcake gifting, which our customers absolutely love. This is to celebrate certain milestones as well. So yeah, anniversaries, 1 year anniversaries with us. It's just something that we've seen work incredibly well. So aligning customer success with marketing, it will drive growth and retention and leads and new business. There's a stat that I saw claiming that negative word of mouth can actually cost a business $2.8 million. However, positive word of mouth can contribute $2.3 million to its bottom line. So that's incredibly significant when you look at, and to your question earlier, Morika, when you look at whether businesses are going to be focusing more on this, I think that stat tells you that they definitely should, and they will be. But essentially, people talk. So hopefully this has given you some inspiration to make sure that they're saying the right things for you. And just always remember, humans invest in people, not just products. So keep that at the core of your customer success and marketing efforts, and I'm pretty sure you'll reap the benefits. So thank you. I'd definitely open up the floor to any more questions after that section.
Amazing. That was super exciting and engaging, Laura. And I know for myself, these are things that I see every day, and I still kind of sat there and listened to you with a lot of care and attention. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much. We do have questions coming in, so let's make a start. First question from Michael. What are the key metrics for measuring the success of marketing to customers?
Yeah, I think I suppose there are two types of metrics that you can look at measuring marketing to customers. It's measuring engagement, so engagement and adoption with your product, to determine whether those additional customer marketing efforts are influencing that positively. Now, you will also want to be looking at the real business metrics in terms of have the customer marketing efforts influenced retention of customers or opportunities for upsell. I think the beauty of customer marketing is actually that you will get output from customer marketing by improving the customer experience, by yeah, implementing some of the tactics that I have sort of covered along that customer journey, you will then, as my last slide sort of talked to, you'll get natural advocates, and those advocates will help you to provide references for prospects. They'll help you to produce case studies that talk to how much they use and love your product. And the references and case studies actually contribute to sales numbers. So in that sense, you would then be tracking sort of how many deals were supported that were closed by referrals and what were the value of those deals. So you can then have a monetary value attributed to your customer marketing efforts. So yeah, hopefully that helps to answer.
Amazing. We have another question coming in. I love the closing the feedback loop model. Have you created assets, tools, or campaigns to address the detractors, passive, and promoters in your model?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, what we tend to do, I would say, is look at the individual feedback, and a lot of the time this would tie into conversations that are around sort of QBRs and proactive touch points with that customer. And we would be looking at that point at re-engagement strategy. And as part of those re-engagement strategies, it would be sort of gamification and incentivizing adoption, and trying to drive positive habitual behaviors through those re-engagement strategies. So it could be something like the bingo cards that I showed you, or depending on sort of the control that the customer can have internally, they might want to launch some sort of competition where one of our customers actually had a really fantastic initiative where they, for half a day, committed their team who were using the platform to doing one certain activity within it. And this was incentivized with a competition. And the internal communications around this were emails and Slack channels and constant updates on who was leading and tips on how to do it better and faster. And that was global. It wasn't even one team in one office. It was actually a global initiative that they ran. And as a result, they were showing how easy it was to use the platform, which got people a lot more engaged. They were then able to turn around and report on the benefits of that one initiative and how within that short time frame, they achieved X, Y, and Z. So I think you wouldn't want to sort of implement blanket tactics. And it's that the personalization of those tactics I think is key, especially when it comes to feedback and detractors as well. You want to show them that you're listening. So I would say more than anything, there are a few initiatives that you could do, but more than anything, keep it personalized. Make it obvious that you're listening to them and their pain points, and you craft your tactics around that.
Definitely. I think that what you're saying is super important, just that element of personalization to never forget that the habits that we're forming are actually being formed in humans. And I think a very logical question that will stem from that would be, how do we achieve that personalization at scale? So if a customer success manager has 10, 15 accounts, it's quite easy to keep all that personalized and keep those tactics very close to the customers. But what if we had 30 or 40 or 50? What would you recommend your tactics for delivering that delight at various parts of the journey would be?
Yeah, automation as much as possible. There are lots of tools out there that can support you in doing this. Whether it's your gifting that's automated by specific stages that are logged in your CRM that you use, whether it's sort of automated email newsletters where you can still input personalization features such as customer name, company name. The personalization options for those types of platforms are incredible, unbelievable sometimes. So there are opportunities to automate and to scale using platforms that can support you in doing this. something that I do, because I'm always so mindful that CS and, you know, Moriko, you and I work closely together, you have a lot on. And to think about going that extra mile, or to have the headspace to kind of, you know, do something like a little email that's prompted by a piece of news, it might not be something that is sustainable. So what I do is proactively, I ping my CS people, whether it's in a Slack channel, and I say, guys, there's this awesome award event coming up. You might want to invite your customers, or like this has happened for this customer. You might want to drop them a quick email, just to try to support in that. And potentially, yes, that's not scalable. What I would say is that there, again, are ways that you can automate. You can take that off of the customer success manager's hands, still be sending emails that look like it's come from your customer success manager through that personalization. But it's something that you can kind of do via certain platforms. So I think that's what I would suggest if you're looking at making this scalable.
Definitely. We have a slightly different question here, and I think that is a topic that would probably deserve its own webcast as well. But do you have any initial top tips for setting up an advocacy program?
Oh, yeah. I think the top tips for setting up an advocacy program for me, and we're actually we're looking at doing some exciting things here at Beamery with sort of customer communities and advocacy on that front, which is, yeah, I'm incredibly passionate about. Planning is everything. First and foremost, step one is identify who your obvious advocates are. That's your low-hanging fruit. If there are people who are off of their own back talking about your brand on social media or LinkedIn, or there are people that you know love your product and they've already referred somebody, they are your obvious founders of your advocacy program. So identify the people who could potentially be a part of it, but also have a very clear vision and message for what you want that to be. Advocacy programs, I believe, need to be founded on a much higher level vision and mission, because again, it's that personal, you're talking to humans. It's that personal investment from somebody. And what you're trying to say to them is, we value your use of our platform, we value you being an innovator and a thought leader in the industry. We want to invite you to a special group. That's your business's special group. And I think having a vision and a mission for that group is key. For example, I believe that you can create a tribe through advocacy. You can create people who, yeah, they're not just passionate about your product. They're actually just passionate, in our example, about TA or hiring amazing people, or they're passionate just about people. Like we're blessed because we work in sort of HR and talent acquisition tech, that essentially people are at the core of what we and our customers are doing. And I think if you've got a vision and a mission that you can use to drive it, that people will be invested personally in joining this advocacy program, that's going to set you up for success in the long run. And I think my final top tip in sort of starting it is to make sure that you've got a plan in place where it's give and take, but give foremost. And everything that I discussed in those slides is you giving, it's you going that extra mile. Having an advocacy program is pulling that all into one place so that people know that you've gone that extra mile. They have positive associations and perceptions of you as a CSM and of your business as well. And they would be happy to advocate for you. They would be happy to talk positively about your product because you've gone that extra mile. So I think have a plan in place where you maintain that balance over time. You don't want to say, give, now I want the world. You want to be able to say, I'm giving you a little bit here and there and everywhere, now this is a small ask from you. And balance those asks as well. You always remember you're taking time from people's day, and time is one of the most valuable things. So yeah, balance the asks. That would be what I would say is critical.
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about, we talked a lot about how customer success marketing helps customer success, but how would you say customer success helps marketing? So say someone doesn't have a customer success marketing function in their business, and as a customer success manager, I want to set one up. Mm-hmm. Apart from benefits for me, what are the benefits from our marketing team? How do I work with content? How do you work with demand generation? How do you work with all the various different types of marketing in your team?
Yeah, there are huge benefits to marketing from customer success, because I'm incredibly passionate about this. You are the face of our customer internally. You're the voice of our customer, essentially. You are the only channel through which we can understand what makes the customer tick, who they are, how they're using the platform, what they're valuing most for it, which in turn gives us market insights. We know that if we're going to run a demand generation campaign, these are the types of user personas that are going to convert. If we're building sort of collateral for the rest of the business for sales to use, we know that X customer has given this incredible bit of feedback, so we can actually reach out to them and ask them to kind of approve our use of it with marketing materials. I think there's huge benefits to marketing, not only from an output sense, but also an insight sense as well. You guys give us huge amounts of insights about our customers, but you also give us the opportunity to actually utilize that information and essentially mobilize exactly what you're telling us to go back into the top of the funnel. And that's why I love customer marketing and that relationship between CS and marketing so much. It's that it's a loop. Everything is a loop. And whether it's that loyalty loop or actually internally, you've got a loop where you're helping everybody, all different functions across the business. That's why I'm super passionate about it, and it has huge opportunity to impact your business positively, but multiple departments in your business.
Amazing. And Laura, I'm seeing that we're actually moving closer to the end of our webcast today, but one last question we have here is, the customer success marketing field is a relatively new one. How do you see it grow and impact companies over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that customer marketing potentially could become its own function. I think as we see the value from customer marketing efforts, and as there's more awareness into the fact that actually the output of customer marketing is things like reviews, people talking about your product in the digital space. And as you know, that's our language. Like, digital is the way that we communicate with each other. In the sales cycle, people are no longer just speaking to you or checking out 1 or 2 reviews. They're actually speaking to people through LinkedIn InMail that they know use your product. And I think as businesses become a lot more aware that conversationally, your brand reputation is incredibly important, obviously, but also as part of the sales cycle, people are heading there much more than what they used to. People go straight online when they're researching. And that's why word of mouth and sort of influencer marketing is becoming much more prominent. And I think that's essentially the direction that I think that customer marketing is going to go. It's that influential space of the internet is going to become much more important, and businesses are going to want to do everything that they can to control the narrative that is out there. The only way of doing that is by engaging and speaking to your customers and having some sort of program around it where you have measures in place that you can influence that narrative. So yeah, I think it's going to become incredibly important. And as we've sort of seen, I suppose, influencer marketing as a channel grow hugely over the last, I'd say, 5-6 years, I think customer marketing is going to be a huge focus as well.
Yep, and I think a lot of us here agree with you. I said that was the last question, but I lied because we have one more. So I'll go through that one too. Do you think it will be best for an organization to hire a customer success marketing member to the customer success team, or a customer success manager should include the role of customer success marketing? So should we have a specialized function, or should we have one of our CSMs become the marketing function?
Yeah, if you can, separate it, keep it separate, because I mean, you guys know more than anything, you don't have time to think about marketing on top of everything else that you're doing. But aside from the time aspect, it's actually, it ends up being a different relationship that your customer marketer can have with your customer. And one thing that I always maintain is incredibly important is there can be a distinction between CSM and your customer marketer, but your CSM has to know absolutely everything that's going on with that customer account. And every interaction that the customer marketing has, if it is a different function with your customer, they need to be looped in. The CSM needs to be looped in. So if you can, have a separate customer marketer, because the type of asks and the relationship that they can have is different. When, you know, your customer success manager might be sort of having different conversations with them that are a lot more functional. You know, they've got upcoming QBRs, they might have issues, they might be in the middle of a renewal opportunity. To be able to distinguish between those types of conversations, and then, like, we'd love some advocacy output from you, is incredibly important. That being said, there has to be visibility for the CSM. Marika will vouch for this. I will always go to her first with a request or an FYI, this is happening, because having been on the other side of the fence in more of a customer success role, you guys need to know absolutely everything that's going on with your customer, and you are the gatekeeper, I would say, to your customer. And first and foremost, your relationship with them and what you're doing with them is important, is the most important. So I'd say customer success, customer marketing, that everything funnels through that CSM. Not necessarily from sort of an approval or, you know, working on exactly the same thing type of sense. It's just more that when those requests come in, when that engagement with the customer has to happen, the CSM can be completely across it and know exactly what's going on, what's being said, and how that customer has responded as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. I think we're just on time. That was so fantastic. I couldn't thank you enough for being with us today. We've had a few questions about whether the slides will be available to view later. Yes, the slides will be posted on our workplace community. If you are not a part of the Customer Success Network yet, sign up today. Just go on our website and click the join button. We're going to send you an invitation to join our workplace community shortly after. A big thank you to everybody who tuned in today. A big thank you to Laura. We're going to take a short break in August, but we're back in September, so have a fantastic summer, everyone in London. We've had a little bit of summer, so I hope that the ones of you in Europe and other parts of the globe are enjoying it a little bit more than us. Stay tuned for our next speaker and our next topic. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day.